My name is Przemek Staniszewski. I'm the CEO of Pretius Low Code. So not the entire Pretius, but our low code subsidiary. That's the company that specializes in implementing different low code platforms. And we have been building applications and the entire systems on the foundation of those platforms for like the last 15 years. I'm also Oracle Ace, and while I'm not playing with the technology, I take care of my 3 kids, which is the main reason why I cannot be with you today. Today I would like to tell you something about utilizing low-code platforms, especially Oracle APEX, in scenarios that are not so common or at least not very well known all over the internet. So of course, BeeAPEX is a great initiative that I hope will promote low code, especially among students. But in my opinion, they should also know that this technology is created not only for simple things, yeah? Because still many people think that low code is good only for small solutions or quite simple applications. But today I'm going to prove that it's not true, and such frameworks can be used to build really large applications or even some critical systems. So probably most of you have already seen such a slide, yeah, a couple of typical use cases of the low-code platforms. And of course, don't get me wrong, all those points are actually true because Apex and other low-code platforms are great solutions to, for example, replace your spreadsheets, create reporting apps, or for example, extend some existing system. But it's also very important to know that it's not the limitation of platforms like Apex. Because otherwise, if we are not familiar with it, people that are going to learn this technology may quickly become a little bit discouraged. And what's more, maybe their future employers may not fully understand the potential of those platforms and skills of those students. And I must admit that in my personal experience, I have to deal with such statements, yeah. Some guys on a really important position, yeah, keep saying that low code is just for simple internal applications, or that it's limited, yeah, and maybe we should stick with other, let's say, professional technologies or languages, like for example Java. So it's good to know that such statements can be quite easily refuted, and it's good to know a couple of examples that can be publicly proved. What's more, it's not only my experience, but some researchers also show that companies that have already adapted low code around 2 years after the initial adaptations or after using it, do not think anymore about the citizen development, democratization of the IT or other buzzwords, but they quite quickly realize that it's a great tool to reduce the backlog of the IT, to increase the IT responsiveness, and escape the technology debt in areas that used to be created for, let's say, old school programming style. Yeah. I think that we can start with a couple of real life examples. Just a little bit of water. Okay. So the first example, it is an entire system created for one of the biggest Polish shipping companies, Vancargo. The customer had many Oracle Forms-based applications and several delivered in different technologies, like for example, PHP. And they had a big problem with the maintenance of this entire stack. What's more, most of those applications used to be initially created like 15, 20 years ago, yeah, something like that. So what we did is the migration of those modules to an Apex-based system containing currently 27 different applications that are unified and look like one big application. The 2 most challenging elements of this project were, first of all, a period when both the old and new applications were running at the same time. So we had to provide a kind of solution to synchronize data for every model in this transitional period. And the second was the lack of any documentation of the old solution. So our team at the very beginning had to investigate how it was created, to be able to use as much possible of the existing and well-tested code and to provide this modernization in the most effective way. And it's quite popular way of utilizing low code, including Apex. So you have some legacy application and you investigate how much of the existing code you can reuse to build actually a new solution, but based on the things that already worked. Yeah. So the application is currently used by around 1,000 office employees and 5,000 drivers every day. So you can say that it's actually the entire transport management system with all the elements typical for this kind of applications like orders, tracking, route planning, etc. It's also a very good example of application or system strongly integrated with the AI, because this particular solution can specify the price or predict the price of the route based on the historical data, availability of the drivers, fuel prices, weather condition, etc. So you can say that after a couple of months or years, we actually built some kind of Uber for the shipping companies with Apex. Yeah. And referring to this example, I would also like to mention that many customers like low code because of the standardization at the area of software development that most of the low code platforms can give you. So the platform itself has some rules that force different developers to follow those standards at the level of creation, at the level of maintenance, etc., which gives us a really, really good foundation to start building or thinking about the entire DevOps process, yeah, which is also important, which I will emphasize a little bit later. So the next example is SMART, which is the acronym of Sophisticated Monitoring and Analysis of Risk Tool. So the application was created as a new version of the tool that was initially developed in the Oracle Business Intelligence Framework. The customer, MR HealthTech, which is a Greek company, which is a part of Minish-Re, the biggest reassecurated in the world. They provide policy management and portfolio monitoring solutions for the healthcare, the entire insurance industry. So they wanted to create a new version of the existing tool with three main assumptions. So first of all, use as much as possible from existing database structures like logic stored in the PL SQL, etc. Get rid of expensive licenses that they have used, like, for example, WebLogic, BA Publisher, Oracle Business Intelligence itself, etc. And maybe the most important reason, they wanted to create a solution that they will be able to provide both in the cloud and in the on-prem environment, because the original solution was like quite legacy on-prem application. The application doesn't look like a typical Apex design. It has many, many business intelligence features, including, for example, dashboards, charts, KPI customization, etc. But what is very important, it was developed in the low-code approach. So while developing something with the low-code, you may be a little bit tempted to use more full code than the low-code or no-code, yeah. And it's really important to stick into this low-code approach. So most of the components are native elements. If some customization was required, it was done using Oracle Jet or creating dedicated plugins for reusability. The customer was also really interested to create a cloud-ready application that replaces the existing on-premise solution and will allow selling the product in the SaaS model globally. And this actually happened. The company currently operates in over 19 countries. So as you can see with Apex, you can create let's say charming, modern-looking applications. And this platform also helped in migration from OBIA and made it possible to introduce completely different sales model for the product, because now it doesn't have to be sold as a on-prem solution, but it can be offered as a SaaS in the cloud, yeah, in completely different selling model. It's also quite interesting how this project was run from the management and organization perspective, because the customer wanted to train their team. So they already got very good experience at the level of the database, at the level of the PL SQL, but they were not experienced in Apex itself. Yeah. So it was their project with their product owner, but the project was conducted by our experts, and we also included to the team the customers team that simply learned Apex and our best practices during the project. So after the project finished, they were able to develop something internally or to maintain the entire solution internally, because the learning path of the low-code platforms is usually quite low. Yeah, it's quite simple to start doing something with them, and it's even easier if the platform that you are going to adapt is based on the technology that your team is familiar with, like the Oracle in this case. And that's actually the essence of something that we call co-creation. So the model when the dedicated team works with the team of the customer, and it works really, really well in the low-code projects. Next example, resource manager. So the application created for a company from the pharma sector to help manage over 25,000 employees. So things like salaries, allocation planning, HR processes, and so on, everything created in Apex with many, many Excel-like features. Quite similar to the previous example, all the additional features were created as close as possible to native Apex. Yeah? What is also interesting in this project is that the customer is strongly connected to Google, the entire Google ecosystem. So the application is integrated with the G Suite ecosystem. And it's not only at the level of, let's say, authentication, but for example, all the integrations with Google Calendar, Google Meet, Google Drive, Gmail, etc. Yeah? It was very, very critical project, the first one created with the low-code platform in this particular company, and the one that proved that the development could be really faster, because it took 4 times longer to provide exactly the same features in the classical Java or .NET approach at the level of the proof of concept. Yeah? What's more, the application is also strongly connected with the workflow management. So a couple of years ago, for this kind of solution, we used to use frameworks like Activity or, for example, Camunda. But a couple of months ago, the open source projects flows for Apex was introduced, and we decided to use this open source framework to cover workflow processes in this application. So it allows developers and end users to design workflows in quite modern graphical way. It's compliant with BPMN 2.0. And after the implementation, it's really, really easy to change such a flow without any programming skills. And last but not least, Safe Commission, which is an Apex-based product that we created a couple of years ago. So application dedicated to calculate commissions. And in this scenario, it was implemented at the BNP Paribas Bank, where it's used to calculate commissions for different banking products, including, for example, every card payment. So you can easily imagine the amount of data that is being processed with the system. It integrates with many different data sources at bank. Yeah, so from the very beginning, it gets data from different applications, allows users to configure hundreds of rules, how to calculate different commissions for different products and customers. Of course, everything built with Apex and in the graphical way. And finally, it generates some documents, automatic transfers, etc. Yeah, so 100% Apex and Oracle database.
How is the development organized? Are you using freelancers or permanent staff?
It's permanent staff. Actually, we have over 45 Apex developers at our company. So it's like our internal staff that is developing this kind of projects. But of course, if the customer wants, as I mentioned, we can involve also their people to the development team. And thanks to this, they are learning Apex and our standards during the project. Yeah.
So when you introduce in the company with the legacy system Oracle Apex, are they also educating their people to work with Oracle, or it's a separate product line?
Actually, it depends, because if we are talking about the legacy systems, then usually this company has those systems built also on the foundation of Oracle somehow. So at least they have like the Oracle database, or the legacy system was built with, for example, Oracle Discover, Oracle Forms, Oracle EBS, yeah, something that is somehow connected to the Oracle and to the database. And thanks to this, they are looking, when they are looking for some replacement, they are looking into Apex because first of all, for them it's free. They can reuse the licenses that already existed. And what is even more important, they can reuse the skills of the existing team, because sometimes the migration of the legacy application is not only technical, but also the HR problem, because you can imagine that, for example, you have a system that has been developed or maintained by the existing team for the last 20 years, yeah? So statistically, those people may be in their, I don't know, 50s, maybe 60s, yeah? So when you came and say that, okay, guys, we will be migrating this system to some new fancy framework, like, I don't know, React or Angular, they usually are a little bit scared about their position, yeah? And so on. And if you are migrating such a solution to the low code, then it's much easier to convince those people that, come on, easy, yeah? We will reuse your skills because, for example, Oracle is still based on the SQL, on the PL SQL. So the technologies, frameworks, languages that you are already familiar with. And it's important for this kind of company in this scenario to reuse those people because they are experienced, they know the business, yeah? So it's much more effective to do it this way than to introduce completely different frameworks with completely new stuff, yeah? If I can give you or your students some advices how to start the journey with low code, based mostly on my experience, the first one would be to start with something small. So you don't have to begin with a critical system at the very beginning, yeah? It's better to find some, let's say, module, single process to cover with, for example, Apex. And thanks to this, you will be able to understand the tool and, of course, check whether it suits you. And of course, depending on the organization, it's really easy starting with something that already exists in this organization. So it might be the vendor. So for example, if your company has Oracle database, you have also free access to Apex. And you would be probably quite surprised how many companies that pay really, really big money for Oracle licenses has no idea that they have such a powerful tool available for free, yeah? Internally. They have already installed it, yeah? But they are not aware of that. It also might be some product that was, for example, bad and it's based on the low code. So it can be, for example, easily extended with tools like, so it can be based on Forms, Oracle ABS, or for example, SAP. Or it might be a person that used to use such a low code platform in his or her previous job. But you just have to keep in mind that there is nothing like a perfect low-code platform, yeah? Because we are specialized not only in Apex, yeah? So I would also like to give you my perspective that I am personally a big fan of Apex, but it's not always the best solution for some customer, yeah? So it depends on their current technical stack. If they do not have or don't want to have Oracle, then Apex is simply not an option for them. So such a decision should be based on the licenses that they already got, the skills that they already got or the staff got, and of course the plans for the future applications. Yeah, because for example, if you are going to create applications mostly dedicated for the mobile devices, for example, not PWA, but the native ones, then I would probably not recommend Apex as your main low-code framework. Yeah, I would recommend some different solutions that are better. That better fits this approach, yeah. So the second advice, even if the first application is simple, I would recommend to think big from the very beginning, yeah. So as I showed you, this tool can be really powerful, and you never know how will your very first application evolve, yeah. So don't let yourself and the technology to be labeled as dedicated only for those simple things. So be prepared for more complicated challenges. Learn new things, follow best practices, and be ready to respond to these new opportunities when they occur. And that's why we encourage organizations to take something that we call a low-code test. because it can allow them to wisely define their current needs while implementing the low-code platform. Yeah, so to select the right tool and methodology for such a adaptation. Yeah. And in my opinion, it's not possible to do it right without answering those questions. So first of all, without defining the scope, why do we even want to implement the low code? Yeah, how we are going to use it not only now, but in the next 2 or 3 years. Yeah, what kind of resources do we currently have? Yeah, maybe we have already got any low code apps running because we bought such a product. Yeah, maybe we have some people with those skills. Yeah, maybe we have some licenses that will make this adaptation a little bit cheaper. Yeah, maybe we will be able to reuse some code because, of course, every platform is based on some programming language. Yeah, so if we are based on the Oracle, then Apex is a natural solution. If we are much more familiar with Java, then probably the better solution would be, for example, Mendix. If we are much more keen on, let's say, .NET, yeah, then probably OutSystems may be better, etc. And of course, we need to define what kind of applications we are going to develop with this platform that we are going to select. And that's why we have this kind of test. On the screen, you can see a couple of areas that should be investigated during taking such a test. Yeah, so we need to think about whether we are going to develop web applications, desktop applications. Maybe we are much more interested in mobile ones, whether the workflow or some BPMN standards are important for us, how we would like to define the business logic, whether this workflow approach is more important, or whether we are much more based on the data. Yeah, and there are like dozens of questions that you should answer. And if you are interested in this kind of test, I can provide it after the meeting, because it's like a bunch of areas and bunch of questions related to all those areas. Yeah, and it helps you define the best platform for your organization. Yeah, because it's unfortunately it's not always Apex. Yeah. And what is also extremely important to be prepared for this success, yeah, is to define some best practices from the very, very beginning. So define some standards of coding. Most of platforms have them built in, yeah. So for example, in Apex, you have some white papers, like the entire development cycle, yeah. You have built-in tools, like for example, Apex Advisor, yeah, that can help you in keeping some standards, yeah, or verifying the code, even if you or your employees are not very experienced with the technology itself. I would also recommend, while implementing any low-code platform, to create some kind of tech board, yeah? So even if you would like to do it next to the old-fashioned IT, then still it's worth asking them, the more experienced guys, to create a kind of entity that will allow us to select the right technology for the particular project, yeah? Because I have never seen the situation while the particular company would replace everything with the low-code, yeah? They may replace a lot of stuff, but not everything. Yeah, so it's good to have some board to decide whether this particular solution should be done by the, let's say, standard IT, and this, for example, by the low-code department or the low-code approach. Yeah, it's very important to engage the business as much as possible. Yeah, to show them that you are going to implement this kind of solution, to teach them, give them some materials, yeah, so they can be involved in this entire process, and maybe also start playing with the low code itself, because you may find a really, really good talent in the business departments, yeah, that will be transferred in a couple of weeks or months to this low code department. Yeah, it's really, really popular situation. It's also good to start from the very beginning to have somehow some kind of in-house department of the low code. So even if you are started, just decide whether this particular person will be responsible for this adaptation, and maybe this person will gain later more people on board of this in-house department that will keep an eye on those standards, etc. It's good to have some kind of playground for people, like for this business, yeah. So if someone from the business would like to play with this new framework, with this new low-code platform, then it should be extremely easy just to organize some environment for him or for him and give some workspace, yeah, to play. And in my opinion, it's also very good to think about some external partner, like the external company that may keep an eye on the things that you or your company is going to do, and to keep an eye on those environments, on those standards, sometimes maybe on performance, etc. And finally, the last advice, make a difference. Yeah, so don't use Apex just as a next new framework, but as a new way of thinking. I have such a theory that historically IT used to be the sector that speed up the business, and nowadays it's not so obvious. So the platforms like Apex can really be a game changer. And I will leave you with my favorite example of making the difference. So that's the application that we created last year with Apex, a couple of days after last year's Russian invasion on Ukraine. So as you remember, back then, tens of thousands of refugees came to Poland, and very often by train. So there were a big chaos at the main railway stations. So many people arrived, but also many wanted to help as volunteers. So people like, drivers, translators, medics, and many more. And the organization, Fundacja Ukraina, that's the name of this organization that took care of organizing the help. And they used some simple Google spreadsheet to control the entire operation. But after some days, they realized that it's not possible to do it with some standard Excels. So they contacted us, asked for help, and thanks to the skills of the team and magic of the low-code, the application was prepared in just 4 hours. So from the very first meeting to the first production release, it took just 4 hours. The application supported entire management of the volunteers, so signing, informing, cancelling, managing of different type of help, amount of people for a particular time slot, and many more. And in the peak, it was used by over 17,000 people daily, and everything was set up on Oracle Cloud and Apex just in 4 hours.